Thanks, Akemi, and thanks everybody for being here. It's always
皆さん、今日は
exciting.
ね、
Let's make sure that you're on translation first.
We are. はい。元気で。
I can still hear you.
くるくるしてて。
Perfect.
Okay. Hold on. It's the computer's thinking. Just go to another room. Just go to another room. Go to... Okay, sorry, we're gonna fix it. Okay.
How about now? Okay, good. So, as she said, good morning, good evening. As you can see, I get the luxury of being here by myself today because Josh is in the transit of travel, which is kind of fun and exciting for everyone, including myself. But there's no better time to talk about this than now because people pleasing is a subject that is great for me. But before I begin anything, may I scan all of you? You all have such great hearts. Let's walk up to the creator of all that is. Everybody close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and let's gather all the energy from the bottoms of your feet. Take it all the way through your space, take it up to the top of your head, and see yourself in a beautiful ball of light. Take it up to the sky, through the series of white lights, dark lights, and golden lights, all the way up through that jelly-like substance and into that tingly white light. Let unconditional love fill all the cells of your bodies. While you're there, say, Creator, thank you for my life. Take a deep breath in and open your eyes. Like I said, this is a great subject for me because there's no better time than to talk about people pleasing and this subject. I mean, because really it's all about that pressure that we put upon ourselves and to really perform. It's that really tight anxiety that you get within your chest and that way that you really want to be perfect. And that can be really challenging, especially when you have been doing it your whole life and you try to change the things that you want to change. And luckily, we have theta healing to do those things, but it becomes a habit. And for me, it was definitely that. It was something that I had dealt with my whole life from childhood. And the thing is that most of us aren't out of alignment or recognize that we understand and know who we are. But sometimes we have this thing where we need to perform. And that's what I'm talking about when we want to be and seen a certain way. And it's not that we're trying to necessarily act, it's just that we forget how to really step into our true selves and who we are authentically. And that performing self, it's not necessarily that it's fake, it's just adaptive to the environments that we go to where we want to feel accepted or be a part of something or basically find peace within wherever we're at so that it's not causing drama or trauma wherever we're doing things. A lot of that times that comes from and is formed in our childhood through like social norms or culture or even some of the trauma that we may have experienced. A lot of times that can show up as things like the fixer, the achiever, the entertainer, the strong one, the peacemaker, and of course the people pleaser. And I find that that's the one that we obviously are going to talk about. So that's what I had to do is I had to reclaim really the energy that I had spent so much time being agreeable, digestible, and really needed. And I think that when we try to put ourselves out there and try to be ourselves, and then it's not accepted the way that we really want it to be, then we kind of revert back into this place where we find a mold that best fits for us. And as a child, that was something that I definitely did. I have a sister who's visiting me here this week, and we were just talking about this yesterday and about how we found ourselves doing that more often than not, where we would I'm the oldest of the 6 children that we have, and I would constantly be putting myself in a place where I wanted to not cause problems. It was more like the peacemaker. Of course, I always wanted to be kind and generous because it's not just to be kind and generous, but it's like emotional safety. But it's disguised as like selflessness. And so I found myself trying to be selfless all the time in a place where I didn't know how to really fit or really truly be myself. And sometimes that can be the hardest part because you want to be helpful. I mean, we're raised to be helpful. We are grown in a society that says help and be a part of things. And um, even in schools, we're told to help. And even if you have siblings, like let's help each other. And but then when does it go too far? I found like one of the places that it really went too far was when I would say things like, if I'm not useful enough, I'm not lovable. And that was kind of the programs that I found when I was working on this that really came up that, and maybe that was the ones that you feel too, or when you feel your body saying and screaming out loud, when you say no and you are just saying yes the whole time, it's like, how many times do you have to say yes for your entire body to say no, I know I don't want to do this, or you felt like it was just safer to say yes than it was to say no. And I felt like a lot of times in my life that was constant. That was something that was there because I didn't like the guilt that was associated with it. And it wasn't necessarily guilt for being or doing something or saying something that was wrong. It was more like stepping out and being myself and putting this protective wall around who I was, and having these boundaries. And I think that's where the guilt comes up and has that prioritizing of yourself when you say no. And it can be really challenging, especially for your nervous system as it's really grown to really understand who you are over these time periods of people pleasing, because it's just used to the patterns over and over of that shallow breathing, that racing thoughts, those anxieties, that pressure, that almost that abandoning that comes up in a way that fear takes over, because those patterns that we feel within our nervous system is almost like a fawn response, where you feel like you just can't be yourself unless you are used to this pleasing or stepping out and asking to be accepted for who you are. And it's not like you prioritize others over yourself, but it's something that you have learned for so long. And being agreeable or low maintenance or saying no feels almost like a violation to yourself and your emotional rhythms. But really, the truth is that we're not responsible for other people's comfort. We're responsible for our own clarity. And guilt is just an emotional, toxic detox of our identity change. It's what we feel when we stop abandoning ourselves. Emotional boundaries don't equal rejecting others. It's something that is used to protect our truth. And sometimes I feel like we need to be liked so much or want to be liked so much that we put it as a requirement rather than a preference. And that really takes over some of the real things that we have going on inside us that allow us to be ourselves. When I was young, my grandma used to say, you are the most wonderful anticipator of everything that you do. You can always read the room, make sure that you do things that are before anybody ever recognizes, they need to be done, whatever that would be, because you're so helpful. And I always thought those are such great, wonderful characteristics to have. But then I realized they weren't necessarily as I grew older. These were things that were survival mechanisms, things that I had used in order to stay safe, in order not to feel rejected or judged or evaluated. And I felt like it kept me in good relations, but it was really that I was pushing aside the part of myself than it was for being with other people and responding to them. And that people pleasing, that perfect moment, that way of proving myself really took over. And that anxiety, anticipation, hypervigilance was the way that I always just kept feeling every time that I would do something for somebody. But it was like not allowing myself to be free. And sure, it works for a little while, but then the long and like the short term, but then the long term shows up and it's so emotionally exhausting. You have identity delusion and you get really disconnect from yourself when people pleasing and wanting to be seen and loved and accepted, and the need to have people around you that do that. And I guess that really allowing that authenticity and connection is great, but it's not if you can't be your full self, because then it just has a relationship of shallowness. And perhaps you felt this too and allowed this in your life, and um, this desire to be accepted and where you perform. And you felt like it came at a cost for you, and that you felt like you overthought every word, every decision, that you just had to step out of yourself and not really truly feel free to be yourself, that you had to perform everything from the way that you sat to the way that you did everything in your life, that you just were fearing conflict over dishonesty. And I feel like that then it was just like, for me, it felt like I was editing myself constantly. And maybe you feel that way too. Like almost like you were emotionally trying to be user friendly, if that's the best way to say it in best terms. But I think the most painful part about it is even if someone was to say something of praise, you just don't feel seen. You don't feel heard because you never really showed up fully as yourself. And how can you really be seen if you can't show up for yourself? If you're so busy pleasing others, and because there's a balance. I think that the need for to be liked and the trauma that goes along with it isn't always have anything to do with ego. I think it has everything to do with the emotional survival that goes along with it. But every time that you choose yourself and you show up fully, it's like you rescue this part of yourself that felt like it needed to earn love. And actually, let's just give some downloads. Would you guys like to know that it's possible that you can truly honor yourself, your words, your actions, and alignment and support with your authentic self without feeling like you have to necessarily feel guilty or need to be liked? Is that okay? If you like that download, say yes, nod your head, thumb up, whatever it is. I feel like emotional attunement doesn't mean managing others. It really is more that deep honesty that you have within yourself. Um, when we build relationships based on truth rather than performance, we step into our power. We choose alignment, and instead of that approval that we seek. And I am so grateful that we get to have theta healing because we get to choose to change that type of stuff, because then we no longer are choosing the way that we've been raised or the traumas that we've had, because you don't need to choose easy to be lovable or to earn it, because love that costs your truth, it's not love, it's transactional, and you're already lovable. just the way you are. You were already designed for love, to be accepted, to be exactly who you are. And I think that that's the most beautiful part. Sometimes that's hard for us to hear. And even in the stillness and the becomingness of being perfect and knowing who you are, I think that can be the most challenging, is just knowing that we came and recognizing that we were already lovable. At least it was for me. And people pleasing can be one of the most challenging things as a habit to break. But I think that when you actually try and you're able to make it something that you recognize every single day and that you work at, that it's something that you can change, of course, and it's something that you can recognize within yourself and really overcome, and find that you don't have to keep staying in the molds that you've done or the traumas that you've had in your life, because you're perfect just the way you are. And I hope that that was exactly what you need to hear today. And I'm so grateful that you all joined me today. That was a lot of fun. And hopefully next time we'll get a chance to have us both together. And thank you for all the interpreters for being a part of this. And I do know that Kimmy said that she wanted to say something, or was it Gaia? I don't recall. Okay, perfect. That being said, thank you guys for being here. It's been fun. Before the sun comes and sets on my face, I'm going to say goodbye, and we will see you guys next time. Have a great evening.